Good evening, my lovelies. I'm Lady Creepypasta. Today, we're going to check in on Darren Rogers and his daughter Sarah and see how they're getting on with Franken Teddy. So come, lean in closer, and we'll begin. It's amazing how open kids are to new experiences. When you're a kid, you can get excited about anything from cartoons and ice cream to giant monster teddy bears from hell. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should consider yourself lucky and forget about it. But if you're curious, you can find out more by clicking on the description of this video. There's a link there. Basically, my 5-year-old daughter mistakenly wrote a letter to Satan instead of Santa, and, well, I don't think Satan has a good grasp of what the kids are into these days, because he sent her a 7-foot-tall Franken Teddy in response. Now that you're all caught up, I'll let you in on the fiasco that's happened since my last post. After a very tense sleepover in which Sarah and Franken Teddy watched cartoons and played patty cake, and I consumed a near-lethal dose of coffee, I decided that I had no choice but to send Sarah off to school and try and get in touch with hell's customer service again. The line rang once, and a familiar voice answered. "Hell customer service, how may I help you today?" This is Darren Rogers again, I said. "Ah, Mr. Rogers," the woman said. "How are Sarah and Franken Teddy getting along?" "Well," I said, "that's not really the point. I simply can't keep this thing in my house anymore. It doesn't even belong on this planet."
Ahem.
I turned to see Franken Teddy standing behind me. I stammered out. "I didn't mean you. I was talking about the, pet hamster?"
If the hamster is a threat to Sarah's safety, then I shall terminate it with the fury of a demonic legion.
No, don't do that, I shot out quickly.
That is preferable, Franken Teddy replied. I find the hamster to be cute. I do not wish to obliterate it.
I could feel my mouth hanging open. Okay? Mr. Rogers? The receptionist's stern voice came through the handset. Yes? If you really insist that there's a problem with the teddy bear, Satan had a last-minute cancellation and I can get you an appointment today instead. Oh, I almost hopped with excitement. That would be great. When's the appointment? Now, she replied flatly. I'll buzz you 3 down. Down? What do you... But I was interrupted by a column of black and purple flames that erupted around me. I felt an intense sense of falling before landing with a dull thud on what appeared to be a giant blue beanbag in some sort of cave. I saw that there were 2 other beanbags present. One exceedingly large purple one that Franken Teddy was sat on, and a small, furry pink one that Sarah was on. My mind was numb as I scanned the walls of the cave around me. They were adorned with skulls of creatures that I'd never imagined in my wildest dreams. There was a rounded triangular one with huge eye holes and 3 small horns, and a tiny, perfectly spherical one with no features except for a mouth. In the corner of the office sat what can only be described as a taxidermied dragon's head. Sarah was staring around with the same look of wonder on her face she'd had when I'd first taken her to Disney World. At the opposite end of the room, there was a large, polished black desk that looked to be made of obsidian, behind which sat a normal-looking office chair. I didn't have to wonder why Satan wasn't there for very long. because a column of black and purple flames erupted behind a desk, and when the smoke vanished, the great demon was sitting in his chair, grinning at us all, as if we were honored guests he'd been expecting. He was red-skinned under his suit and had 2 large, polished black horns and a small, neatly trimmed goatee.
"So," he began in a jovial tone, "welcome to hell. You know, I don't get many visitors down here, besides, people who go to hell. And they're generally not very nice."
I saw, out of the corner of my eye, that Sarah had crawled into the dragon head's mouth with Frank and Teddy, and they were having a tea party. Sarah, I don't think that you...
"Don't worry, Darren," Satan cut me off. "The dragon is mostly dead."
Satan seemed unfazed by my lack of eloquence.
"As I understand it," he said, "you have some problem with Franken, Teddy." "You told me the problem was with the hamster, Darren."
Frank and Teddy's voice boomed out from inside the dragon's head. I trailed off.
"I am sorry for my outburst,"
Frank and Teddy said.
"I have not eaten today. You are out of Cheetos."
You ate 30 bags, I said weakly.
"It's okay,"
Satan smiled, buzzing the intercom button on his phone.
"Tina?"
"Yes, Mr. Satan?" The secretary's familiar voice came through.
"Can you get Frank and Teddy 200 pounds of Cheetos?" 300 pounds,
Frank and Teddy interjected. 300 pounds of Cheetos? Right away, Mr. Satan.
"Thank you,"
Frank and Teddy said, nodding his head.
"I require the proper amount of fuel to love Sarah and eviscerate the souls of the righteous with the maximum efficiency."
I tried to focus on Satan, as a giant blue-skinned demon with bulging muscles and a hatchet sticking out of his head wielding a giant wheelbarrow full of Cheetos.
"We make them down here,"
Satan said, grinning.
"Now, Mr. Rogers, what is the issue that you have with Frank and Teddy?"
"Well," I sputtered out, "just look at him. He's a monster." A hush fell over the room, and I realized the blue-skinned demon was eyeing me like he wanted to hit me.
"We try not to use the M word down here, Darren," Satan said. "It's okay, Frisnell," he added to the blue-skinned demon. "He's from Earth. He doesn't know."
Frisnell huffed and stomped out of the room while I once again tried and failed to make noises with my mouth.
Darren, Satan said patronizingly. "I'm surprised at you, judging poor Frank and Teddy by his appearance. You should know better than that. I mean, my daughter is cute as a button, and she's the one who put the hatchet in Frisnell's head."
"You have a daughter?" I asked, dumbfounded.
"I have 700.
Well, trying to forget that Satan had just called me a racist, Sarah is my only daughter, and I just can't help but worry about her when there's a giant undead teddy bear thing constantly around. I heard giggling and turned to see that Sarah had latched onto the back of Frank and Teddy's head, and he was pretending not to know where she was.
"I have been taken in by your deception, and I am not aware that you are on the back of my head," he boomed.
Satan leaned over his desk, rested his chin on interlocked fingers, and put on an expression of deep thought.
"I think I know what you mean," he said after a moment of reflection. "I know just what to do."
"You do? Oh, thank God. I mean Satan." Satan waved his hand dismissively and pushed a button on the intercom.
"Tina?" he said.
"Yes, Mr. Satan?" the intercom replied.
"Can you please send in Miss Hatchetface?"
"Yes, Mr. Satan."
I said,
Miss Hatchet-Face? You mean that giant blue demon was a woman?
What? No, we don't judge based on physical appearances here in hell, and we certainly don't base names on it.
Which is lucky for you, Mr. Big Nose. But seriously, I can feel your plight, Darren. And that's why I'm going to set you up with my own personal nanny to watch over Sarah and Franken Teddy while you're at work.
But Don't you worry, Darren, Satan exclaimed. Miss Hatchet-Face is wonderful. She did a great job with my kids. Well, not the first few hundred, but she got the hang of it eventually. Satan, Boom, boom, boom. The knock that interrupted me nearly knocked the door off the hinges. Oh, that'll be Miss Hatchet-Face now, Satan said, rubbing his hands together. You guys are going to get along great, Darren. Great. I didn't know what to say, and so I simply slumped my shoulders and mumbled out an okay. Satan sprang up and opened the door, and I gasped as I caught sight of Miss Hatchet-Face, a petite, pink-skinned woman with a small button nose and glittering obsidian eyes.
"Are you Mr. Rogers?" she asked, cocking her head to the side and regarding me with a look of curiosity. Satan leaned over and whispered, "She's half succubus," in my ear as I shook her soft, delicate hand. Miss Hatchet-Face's tail twitched as she giggled. "I've never met a human before," she smiled. "Are they all as handsome as you are?" My mouth went dry and I suddenly became very aware of how large and awkward my tongue felt in my mouth. "So," Satan clapped his hands together cheerily, "are we all set here?" I stared into Miss Hatchet-Face's deep, glittering black eyes, and before I knew what was happening, my head was nodding up and down of its own accord. "Great," Satan said. "Then I'll send you for backup." "I can't wait," said Miss Hatchet-Face before a column of black and purple flames swallowed us all. Seems like Satan has sorted that all right up now, don't you think? If you haven't done so already, do hit that subscribe button along with that bell icon to get updates on new video uploads. Also, come visit me on Facebook at facebook.com/LadyMcCreepster. The link is in the description below. That's all I have for you this evening, my dears. But remember, do come back and visit me soon.